Welcome back to Factory Sealed. It is May 12th. Is that right? Yeah.
It's the 12th.
It is the 12th of May, 2015. My name is Eric Peterson. Joining me today is Mr. Derek Scavell.
Hello, once again.
And on the other side of the wires, we've got Mr. Kevin Byer.
How's it going today?
It's good, Kevin. I've missed you.
Have you?
Yeah. I miss our weekly shenanigans on the Not Manitank podcast.
The now defunct, officially?
You guys dropped me like third period French.
Well, nobody liked third period French, so...
Yeah, but everybody liked me.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
It's about my extent of French.
Oh, I thought you were quoting some Inglourious Bastards there.
Ah, well, maybe that too.
Gorlami.
Didn't realize it. Maybe unintentionally.
Maybe. How are you, Kevin?
I'm kind of sore, but otherwise good.
Sore?
Yeah. I joined a slow pitch softball team, and our team sucks real bad.
Is Matt on your team?
God, no. Matt doesn't do anything physical.
Are you at least drinking beer while you're playing? Because if you're not, that's probably...
Yes.
Okay, you are. All right.
Okay.
All right. Just making sure that's a standard prerequisite.
Is it bar league softball?
In that you can drink on the field?
No. So
Just
I
like
guess
you're sponsored by a bar, a local bar. Like you got jerseys that say like Joe's Pub on it or something like that.
No, but we should definitely look into that.
So,
or better
Hey,
yet,
Joe's
maybe,
Pub, would you like to sponsor my softball team?
maybe you can just make factory sealed shirts.
Oh.
The official factory sealed slow pitch softball team.
I like it. Eric, send me a whole bunch of money so I can put those on jerseys.
I don't think that's going to go well.
They lost. They're 0-3 with a combined 90 runs against in the first 3 games.
But they sure know how to play a video game.
Oh, 1-3. Okay.
And it's probably way more than 90 runs against.
So the reason we ask is back in lacrosse, they would have bar league softball where...
There's about as many bars as there are churches.
Oh yeah, it used to have the highest bars per capita in.
It was ridiculous.
I think it's in the nation. I mean, there's like 30 or 40 bars in a span of 3 blocks, and people will get these teams and they'll get bars to sponsor them, and it's basically just an excuse to have a drunken softball season.
Oh, yeah.
So the first couple games, everyone's like, okay, let's take this seriously. And by the time the playoffs come around, everybody's shit-faced before the game even starts.
Oh yeah, I mean it's to call it competition is really giving it more credit than it deserves. But it's an excuse to go out. Everybody has fun, and I'm sure that's what you guys do too.
Well, there is one field though where you pretty much have to drink in order to tolerate being at that field, and it's the one that's down by the river by the sewage treatment plant.
Oh, yes.
There is a softball
terrible.
field about 200 yards from the city's water treatment plant, and it just smells like hot shit all the time.
And hot shit isn't just an expression; that is actually physically what it is.
There's a flame spewing over the top of the trees in the distance, and it's like, well, looks like they're burning extra shit today.
Yeah.
It's a special place, but it is awesome. I mean, everybody gets really into it, and after the games, everybody's still in their jerseys if they're still conscious, and then they go crawl in the pubs downtown.
Yep, it's pretty much standard for bar league softball.
I'm surprised Canada doesn't have that, like a bar hockey league.
You know what's popular in northern Minnesota, and it might be in Canada too. I don't know. You have to fill me in, Kevin. But bar cricket leagues, or not cricket? Excuse me.
That's definitely not.
Who the fuck plays cricket?
Not cricket. Curling is what I meant.
But you need like a really specialized facility for curling. You can't.
You just have you ever played pond? You just need pond hockey. It's just you can just freeze the sidewalk outside probably and make it into a curling court there.
I think bar league hockey would be better. And everybody just gets shit faced and they're playing hockey.
Well, technically in Mankato, Minnesota, where I went to undergrad, they did have a bar league hockey, or the different bars sponsored rec hockey teams, but it wasn't. You can only imagine if you can't get the same capacity of drunk in hockey and be successful as you can in bar league softball.
Kevin would be willing to test that theory.
Kevin, would you be willing?
I think I could test it, yeah. But no, I think hockey would be a lot harder.
I think it'd be more dangerous.
Well, absolutely. You have sticks and sharp things on your feet, and you're super drunk.
But it would be 10 times more hilarious than softball. I mean, it is not uncommon in bar league softball for someone to be up at bat, swing, and fall down.
Oh, yeah. Standard.
Well, yeah, I mean, that probably will happen at some point in my season.
Are you guys still doing no, you were never part of it, but Oliver was part of the dodgeball thing, right?
Yeah, I think he's still doing it.
They need to have bar league dodgeball. Like, every sport would be better with bar league.
Yeah, I guess you can. I mean, let's be real here. It doesn't have to be bar league. Just alcohol involved.
Everyone who I have ever met who plays dodgeball on like one of these leagues or whatever, they're all so stuck up about it that I don't think they would allow bar league.
I got
like,
that
no, this
impression.
is serious.
Yeah. I got that impression whenever Oliver and Amber talked about it. They're like, we're gonna win. It's like, who cares? You're throwing a ball at another grown adult.
Have you seen the movie Dodgeball? There's a lot of money at stake sometimes.
I suppose.
Jim's at stake. Average Joe's. Come on, guys.
I gotta watch that again. That's a good movie.
Arr.
So I forgot, did you say it was a basketball or a softball league?
Softball.
What is wrong with you?
Can you imagine drunken
Softball.
basketball?
That would be awesome too.
That'd be horrendous. Anything that requires, I don't know.
Coordination? I think softball lends itself so well because if you're so drunk, you can amble out into the outfield and just kind of stand there.
Well, the thing about softball is you don't have to be diligent 100% of the time. It's like, oh, here's the pitch. Okay, pay attention
exactly.
for one moment.
You need like 10 seconds every 5 minutes when you're actually paying attention.
And that's
only if the ball's hit you.
I know.
What you could do with basketball is you could have 2 full teams, and one team's on the other side, and the other team's on. So you've got 10 people on the court, and like, this is my offense team, and if the offense rebounds, or the defense rebounds it, they huck it down to the other side of the court, and then they get their break, and then the offense takes over.
That's how old-style women's basketball used to be.
Because they couldn't run.
Oh my god. Diana Taurasi is listening to this right now, and is already commenting on our Twitter feed here. But they used to only do, it wasn't even 5-on-5, and you played offense or defense. That's how it worked.
So there were 20 people on the court at all times.
No, it wasn't 5-on-5.
Oh.
It was usually, I think it was 3-on-3 or even 4-on-4, but you had 3 offensive players and 3 defensive players on the court. So if the defense got the rebound, they would just give it to their offensive player. It was like a free play. They could just give it to their offensive player. They would go down and they would run their offense.
Huh.
My friend's mom was a state champion in Iowa in 1950 or 1969 or something like that.
That sounds absolutely horrible.
Yeah. The birth of Title IX, women's sports.
Bar league volleyball too.
Well, bar league volleyball is okay. I mean, especially the sand volleyball in the summertime.
We could just agree that any sport would be better, is better with excessive amounts of alcohol.
I don't know about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'd be willing to think like skeet shooting would probably not be better.
What?
We gotta boom. Was it from Anchorman when they had the celebrity golf tournament? Brick's like, no, too many people died last year. It's like,
I don't remember that part.
The skeet shooting would be that exact thing. Now we're canceling it after the first annual skeet shooting bar league contest because everybody's dead.
Joe's Pub lost 3 guys last year.
But they still won the championship.
That was the miracle. Should be made into a movie.
The after party will be at the funeral home. That's awesome.
Gun control laws.
How did we even get here?
I don't know. It started with Kevin saying he was sore.
Good job, Kevin.
Thanks, Kev.
Way to bring the conversation around.
That was a very stimulating conversation.
Well, I aim to please.
All right. Perfect.
What's up? What else is new with you, Kev?
That is it.
That's it.
I do nothing else except this podcast, my other podcast, and now softball.
And now you have a busy life, my friend.
Eric and I were discussing how, between the two of us and the time, or I guess 3 of us.
Oh my God, yeah.
And the time that we put into this game and the time we put in preparing, that has taken up a good chunk of our lives when we're diligent about it. I know we took a break there for a while.
I broke it down in that this past Factory Seal that we did, episode 49, I spent maybe 20 minutes cumulatively prepping for that show. That's including actually playing the games. This show...
What game did you guys play?
Oh, I played Excite Bike 64. We played Evo: The Search for Eden.
Great game.
We played just not a whole lot because I was prepping for this show. So most shows we don't put that much time into in terms of playing the games, but like this one, if we end the game at about 75 to 80 hours, which is probably right where we're going to be, that means we've put 20 hours of prepping per episode.
Impressive.
Really? You guys are going to be at 80 hours?
Well, I was just going to bring that up. I'm personally at 55 at the end of Disc 3.
Okay. Let's say even if we
probably
cap
another
out
5
at,
hours
even if we
after
cap
this.
out at 60,
Yeah.
that's still 15 hours of prep per show. That's a lot.
What are you at, Eric?
I just crested 50 hours.
Oh my god. How?
What are you at?
Like 37, 38?
It is definitely possible with 37, 38.
Yeah.
I have maxed out Quistis, Squall, and Irvine at level 100 each. And then of course I've worked on drawing spells that will maximize each category, each attribute. I was able to I was able to max out strength at 255, but that's really the only one. I did go back and I'm like, I'm going to do the same with my other 3 characters, Rinoa, Zell, and Selfie. And I got to about level 60 with Zell and Rinoa, and Eric's like, dude, we got to finish this. We're going to do the podcast tomorrow. I'm like, well, Selfie, just stay in Ragnarok and drive. Because,
we were pounding through this together last night at about 9:30. He's on the couch playing it on PS3, and I've got my Vita going. It's like, all right, you're about 2.5 minutes ahead of me, and we pounded through it. So for people who are, I don't imagine anybody would be jumping into the series here, but we're covering Disc 3 today.
Disc 3
on this episode. We thought about doing the culmination of Disc 3 and 4 for our final episode, but that's not in the spirit of what we initially set out to do. And if there's anything we do here at Factory Sealed, it is accomplish our goals. And
nobody can say that.
The thing is, though, like Disc 4 is like 2 hours long.
That's the thing.
It's not long at all.
But you can also, you're not going to just discuss what happens in Disc 4. I mean,
it'll
obviously
be a culmination
right,
of the story.
you wrap up the whole story, and there is more discussion, which I agree with Eric here. I think it'd be good to we'd be doing a disservice by doing Disc 3 and Disc 4 in one show. So, lucky you viewers, you get 2 more shows.
Yeah. So, where did we end at Disc 3? Was that with the fight in Trabia with Adia, fighting against Adia, and then Rinoa becomes possessed and revives?
Yeah, that's where Disc 3 starts, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Precisely.
So, I'm going to pull open my notes. Is that okay with you, Kevin?
Ugh,
Go ahead.
my goodness.
I've got like 7 pages of notes. For me, honestly, and this is something that I kind of put out there to people on Twitter today, is next time you play a long game, even if you're not doing a podcast, just take small notes. You'd be amazed at how much more you actually catch.
Keep a dossier.
Yeah. Keep a notebook in your pocket and a pen. The game, that's probably honestly why my timer is so high, is because I'll occasionally stop to jot down notes. I've probably got 3 hours worth of note jotting in there.
I will say, and you know, this is another thing that was brought to my attention a while back, is that when you're playing these long games that you're putting 50, even, you know, getting to the PS4 games now, where it's 100 hours plus, you know, in some of these games. You know, can you remember 2.5 hours from Lord of the Rings? No, I can't remember one of those movies to save my life, let alone 100 hours of a game. So it does kind of help to go back and just be able to look at some things and be like, oh yeah. Plus, you remember a lot more when you write things down. So
yeah,
it does do the game.
Well, and think about this: we did
benefits.
our first Final Fantasy VIII Disc 1 episode on the 7th of February.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
3 months ago. I don't remember all the fine details of that. And then we did the follow-up one 2 months later, and then here we are doing this. So for me, it helps kind of just keep things in line.
Okay.
So, with that being said, I don't necessarily want to just go, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, but just kind of like the overarching points, because there's a lot of stuff in this disc that, at the end of Disc 3, we were super confused about a lot of things, and then Disc 3 really starts to shed some light on a lot of that, and a lot of these puzzle pieces start to snap together. But the coolest thing that I think is that we start to see Squall open up a little bit as a character. And it kind of starts right away at the beginning where he's in Balam Garden and Rinoa's in the infirmary, and she's in some sort of coma, and Squall is sitting there, again, trying to recollect what the hell happened. Mm-hmm. He has no recollection of anything.
Right, and you can, like you hit it on the head, Eric, for the first time you're seeing Squall actually give a shit about something. Before it's always been about himself, very reserved, talking to himself, that type of thing. Now he's showing genuine care, and he's showing, actually true feelings.
It's like,
here.
This might be the only girl in the world that I ever have a chance with.
This is the only time I'll be able to completely neglect a woman, and she likes me for it.
Who isn't my teacher? Screw you, Quistis. I don't want you.
She could get in deep trouble for that. Quistis was 19.
Maybe that's why she got...
No, she quit, right? She quit teaching.
Oh, yeah,
but
that's
that
right.
might be why she quit, is because she wanted to go after Squall.
Or maybe she revealed... Maybe there was something that happened beforehand. And Headmaster Sid's like, hey, if the state gets a hold of this, we're going to ask you to step down.
Galbadians will show up and they'll put you on trial.
Next thing we know, this whole thing's going to be out in the ocean, and oh, shit.
I swear it was a private tutoring lesson.
I swear his mouth didn't really go there.
I was trying to teach him how to use the whip.
That's why this is not a family-based show. Back on track, I guess.
Sorry.
So, I'm trying to piece together... My notes were really shitty at the beginning of this disc. So they wake up and they're kind of trying to just piece together what the hell happened, because they're still fighting Adia at this point, right?
Right.
So we are still under the assumption that Adia is the enemy. Headmaster Sid says, hey, I need you to meet me at Adia's house. And when you get there, Sid is there
with Adia.
And Sid is like, I understand if you guys are super mad at me, but I need you to forgive my wife. And then Adia pops out, and she then kind of drops this plot point that says, look, I'm not a bad person. I have been possessed by this sorceress from the future. And this sorceress from the future, her objective is to find a loan so she can go further back in time and ultimately achieve her goal of time compression.
Time compression.
Whatever that means.
Whatever the hell that means is correct.
Yeah, Dr. Odine did a shit job of explaining it at the end of Disc 3.
I think something was lost in Japanese translation there, because they just don't fucking explain that.
I like what Laguna said too. He's like, yeah, this all sounds really complicated, but we'll just walk you through it. And then he gives you these really dumbed down plot points, like do this, then this, then this, then this. But
right.
We'll get to that. So they break down who this sorceress is, and I don't think I wrote it down correctly. She is Adele.
Adele. Correct.
No, Ultimecia is not Adele.
Ultimecia is not Adele. No. They are two separate people. Adele was, or Kevin, you can go ahead, continue.
Well, there's four separate sorceresses.
Mm-hmm.
There's Adia, Adele, Ultimecia, and Rinoa.
But we don't...
We technically don't know Rinoa is a sorceress at this point yet, so spoiler alert. Sorry, guys. But
yeah, spoiler. 10 minutes from now.
Yeah,
we'll
I was going to say.
Sorry.
More to come.
So she reveals that Adele was the sorceress of Estar during the Sorceress War, and everybody hated her. And that's kind of when you're back in Windhill with Laguna, they're bitching about Sorceress Adele at that time.
Right.
So 17 years have passed since the Sorceress Adele. She just went randomly missing. And when a sorceress dies, her powers transfer to another sorceress. So the Galbadians thought that Adia was the one who received Adele's power, when in fact Adia received the powers of the previous sorceress at age 5.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Which was, at that point, Ultimecia. And Ultimecia then released Adia to go find Adele, and that's how Adele became the sorceress of Estar, and then went missing, and here we are.
Okay. A lot to follow there. Yep.
Wait, what? That didn't make any sense
So,
whatsoever.
and Adia actually breaks this down later in the disc after the Squall Rinoa in the flower field. As you're leaving, she says, I became a sorceress as a child, and then again 13 years ago. So when she was 5, she received Ultimecia's power, because Ultimecia assumed that she would be able to help her achieve her goal of going back in time. Then Ultimecia released Adia to go find Adele, and then she found Adele, and then Adele became this evil ruler of Estar. And then,
so you're saying that Ultimecia was the reason that Adele is crazy?
Yes, because Ultimecia, when she...
Okay, I feel like you're pulling this out of absolutely nowhere, because I do not remember this being discussed at all whatsoever in the game.
It is all right here in my notes.
Especially not the fact that Ultimecia gave Adele her power, or sorry, Adia her powers.
I'm going to jump ahead to the part where I actually wrote this down, because I remember specifically highlighting it, and it says, as you're leaving... So, Adia shares when she first became, that should say sorceress, not president, when she was a child, and again at 13 years ago. Those were her exact words. She encountered another sorceress on the verge of death and willingly absorbed her powers. This was the second time, 13 years ago. And that was when she was matron at the orphanage. And that timeline matches up, because Squall and Quistis and everybody are like 18, 19 years old. And at the orphanage, they were 4 or 5. So she makes a comment about how her powers were a point of fear for her kids, and she vowed to fight until the end to rid herself of Ultimecia's power.
So who did she get the powers from the first time?
Ultimecia.
Okay, and then you're saying that Ultimecia released her
of the power because she discovered that Adia did not possess the ability to help her go further back in time, so then she went looking for Adele.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any specific reason why she possessed Adele? Do we know that?
I don't know, but we do know that Ultimecia's ultimate goal is to find Elone, because she knows Elone has the power to help her go further back in time.
Okay.
And her ultimate goal is to make the past, present, and future become one. And that's where Squall and his entourage get the new objective of find Elone and deal with Ultimecia.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time looking at this. I got my head wrapped around this.
I didn't catch it. I do know what I understood from the whole thing is, being the kind of the casual gamer, I guess, was that Ultimecia was from the future and she possessed Adia. I didn't realize that she was released at one time and then came back. I thought it was just always in her, and then Ultimecia exploited her.
And I think what happened, and I might have this written down later, is that Adele went missing during the Sorceress War. She was captured and she was locked into a tomb. And that's when she's up in the moon. Okay? And that is when she came back, and that's when Ultimecia repossessed Adia. Because that timeline all matches up.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Makes sense?
Okay, so Adele got locked up, so she's like, well, can't do anything here. So then she released Adele, went back to Adia.
Correct.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Kevin?
Good theory, I guess. I don't know.
Time travel is so stupid, man. Because Elone was at the orphanage, so if Ultimecia possessed Adia, then she would have got her right away. End of game.
There are some inconsistencies with that. And there is a comment that Dr. Odine makes towards the end of the disc that I'll talk about when we get there, but it completely destroys some of the major plot points. But I do agree that Well, actually, no. I can answer that. So you were saying that Ultimecia, when she possessed Adele, or no, when Ultimecia possessed Adia and she was at the orphanage, she could have just taken a loan, right?
Yes.
Technically she could have, but do you remember when Squall was talking about how one day Sis just disappeared? She was there and she was just suddenly gone. So that could have been the time. I mean, we known that Adia was already the matron at this orphanage for quite a while. And then she was repossessed, and that became a point of fear for her kids. And that could have been the time where Alone recognized, hey, I need to leave. Because Squall makes plenty. No, and I got it in the notes too. Squall makes direct comments about how Alone is just suddenly gone one day, and that's why he's so introverted. Is because he doesn't want to go through that feeling of loss again, losing something that's comforting to him. So there's that scene where he's sitting outside the orphanage in the rain, and he's just saying, "Sis, where are you?"
It's deep stuff. Deep stuff.
Thing is, things are snapping into place. Anything else, Kevin, I can debunk for you?
Yes, you can tell me how this still proves that Squall is dead.
Boom! I was just gonna say that. Yes.
I'll talk about that.
Is Squall really dead?
I'll talk about that at the end of the disc. You can shut up.
I think we all know what that means.
All right, so they leave Adia's house, presumably not pissed off at Adia anymore because she said, "I was possessed. Sorry." And Sid, who they have a pretty good relationship with, is like, "Just forgive her."
All right, she put an ice spike through my chest.
Yeah, whatever. I'm dead. Whatever. Maybe that's
she cured me afterwards.
Yeah. So Adia says Alone is possibly on the White Seed ship, and we know from earlier we came across the Seed ship in Disc 2.
Which Alone initially got on. We know she's on that ship.
Yes.
Because she willingly got off of Balam Garden and got on the White CD ship.
Yeah. So Squall heads back to Balam, sees Rinoa in the infirmary, and this is where we were talking about earlier, where you kind of start to see this sentimental and romantic side to him. He kind of has this little breakdown over Rinoa, and his only thing is he wants to hear her voice one more time. And that's just a recurring thing. Like, I don't want to forget your voice. I just want to hear it one more time.
What a puss. I'm just kidding.
God, man up. Rub some dirt in it.
But it is kind of surprising, though, and we touched on this right away. It's like the first time we see him express himself now, so he's really he's coming around.
Maybe it's because he's dead, and he's finally like, well, I never got a chance.
All right, moving on.
Then we come to just one of the goofiest Laguna scenes that apparently Laguna and Kyros are acting in a movie to make some extra money, and they end up fighting a ruby dragon that Kyros was supposed to be dressed up as, but it's a real dragon. And then, as you're escaping, you see in the distance what I presume to be the lunatic Pandora. Because Laguna made a comment in the distance. He's like, "What's going on?"
Huh.
Did you catch that, Kevin?
No.
You remember what scene I'm talking about, though, right?
Yeah.
So as you're leaving, you have to walk up the mountain. And as you get to there's the scenic overlook where you're wrapping around to the left, and out in the distance you can see all of Estar, and you see the big square shadow marching across the landscape. And he's like, "What's going on?" And that's where the scene ends, and you hear Alone saying, "I can't disconnect. I can't disconnect. Just let me use your spirit a little bit longer."
Huh, I guess I missed that too, but makes sense. Makes sense. I will say this, wasn't the last time Lunatic Pandora came to be, didn't it destroy the Centra continent? Not
yes.
Estar? So yeah, so what he was seeing it over Centra continent then.
And so at that point it was being run by Estar because they excavated it, then they took it out in the ocean and sank it.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he knew what the Lunatic Pandora was, and he's like, "What's it doing here?" I don't know.
Don't know either.
I don't know.
Wonderful Final Fantasy, leaving us
yeah.
wondering. Having
I don't remember what
podcasts
this
like
part
this.
is here. I've got a note that I don't understand what it is. Laguna apparently talking to Adia at the orphanage. That doesn't make
I don't
sense.
remember that
Yeah.
at all.
I'm going to disregard that. That doesn't make sense.
I'm just going to disregard everything that comes out of your notes from now on if you're just making stuff up
I'm
and
not
then
making stuff
writing it
up.
down.
Is this even the same game we're playing?
So, this is what it is. They're having a conversation about what happened to Alone. And this, Kevin.
Oh, yes.
This
yes,
comes
this
up.
did happen.
And this answers why Alone is gone. She was kidnapped by the Estar soldiers because they were looking for a successor to Adele.
Right.
Sweet.
Got it?
All right, I'm following you.
All right. So then they all wake up, and they're no longer in Laguna's world. And
Just back it up one second here.
go.
So the reason, and this is the whole reason why Laguna wanted to go to Estar in the first place.
To find her, that's
He wanted
right.
to try to find Alone because she was kidnapped by the Estar soldiers. So that was what began his whole adventure to getting to Estar.
So these are running concurrent storylines, but they're 17 years apart. So they wake up, and at this point, you're with Alone, and asking if something's wrong. And I don't get the comment that she makes about, no, just the fairies.
You don't get that? So Laguna, and they reveal this.
At the end of the disc.
Yep, Laguna, Ward, and Kiros, they joke around that...
They knew when people were in their head.
Yeah, they knew when people were in their heads, watching their lives, and they always called them the fairies. When really it was like when Squall was inside Laguna, and Zell was inside Ward's head, and so on. They referred to them as the fairies.
And Alone is actually super pissed off at Laguna because he wasn't able to be by Rain. That was Alone's mom.
His crush, yeah.
When she died. And all she wanted to do was show Laguna her newborn baby, which I'm assuming is to be Laguna's baby.
You mean Laguna? Or, yeah. I guess I assumed, but I don't know.
So, Alone...
Are you sure that isn't... Okay,
Alone's whole purpose was to go back and try to keep Laguna there. So the whole time she's possessing you, it's not for thwarting the Sorceress. It's because she wants to see if you can go back and change the past and keep Laguna there by Rain's side. That's her whole objective in this entire game, is make her mother happy by keeping Laguna there and preventing Laguna from going to look for her.
And who do you think the baby is? I theorize that it's Squall. Why?
Does that timeline match up?
About 5 years after.
It does match up.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a.
So you'd have to assume that they're boning in Wind Hill.
I think they're really boning. They're really getting after it.
Do you follow what we're saying, Kev?
I think you guys are totally out there. But yeah, I'm following what you're saying.
Okay.
I think he's right, though, because...
Why would they just bring up a baby and drop it?
Think about it, though, because Squall never knew who his parents were. And Laguna never knew that Rain had a baby and Rain died.
I think Laguna knows a little bit because if you go, and this is skipping way ahead now, folks, but if you talk to, well, you know what? Let's leave that for a little.
Save that.
We'll save that for a little later point in the disc. Remember this, guys. What's our time here? What are we at?
I don't. This is broken down into measures.
Okay, well, come back to the 1102nd measure, and
that's not what it is.
Oh, okay, all right, never mind.
Okay, so Alone reveals at this point that she can only send you back in someone that she has met before, and that becomes pertinent later,
right?
For Squall.
Yep.
So this is kind of where you start to get a little freedom, and I thought it was really interesting back in Balam. If you go down into the basement where Norg was, he's an egg now.
Yeah.
What the hell's that all about?
I don't know. What's your take? Did you end up going back and checking that out, Kevin?
I did not see that, no.
Yeah, you can go back and do it. Like if you go down to the basement, and
it doesn't do anything. He's just an egg.
Right. And the two, there's two old garden workers, whatever, the guys who wear those helmet things are down there, and like, oh yeah, he's an egg. It's like, well,
He's an egg.
whatever, I guess.
Maybe he's in the process of evolving.
That's
because you didn't technically kill him.
No,
and he was just a
didn't.
giant Shumi, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I was kind of wondering too, if he's gonna, I don't know, hatch as a Moomba or something like that.
Giant Moomba.
A giant Moomba. Squeak!
Uncle Laguna! So we still haven't gotten to the mission. They're still looking for the White Seed ship, and Adia says those children are very cautious, and that's kind of important because the ship is manned entirely by kids.
Right. Orphans.
Yeah.
I mean, it was essentially, Sid discloses that it was essentially a mobile orphanage that Adia founded.
Do we know how Adia's house and that orphanage got destroyed?
No, I do not.
Was it destroyed or was it just kind
I thought it was
of
just
abandoned
kind of,
and then
yeah.
Okay.
That's what I thought. Because the building's still standing there.
Okay. So you meet Watts and Zone on this ship. They're technically not children, but they are from the Timber Resistance.
Right.
And they're pissed off that Rinoa's in trouble.
Right, because...
But they're too much of a pussy to do anything about it.
It took me a while to even figure out who these guys were. I'm like, that was a long time ago now.
That was a long time
The
ago.
Timber fucking Resistance? Seriously? Is that
love
even
that.
relevant at this point anymore? Like, completely,
It was the catalyst that set everything
I
off.
know, it was such a pre-story, and
Yeah.
now it's like, oh yeah, there was a resistance.
So Adia gave Squall a letter that says, give these to these children and they'll know that it's me. And there's somebody on the ship that you start talking to, and this is where I didn't quite follow this, so maybe you guys can shed some light on this. They're talking about when Alone left, and they said that she left the ship when some other soldiers came in. There was the Estar soldiers that showed up, and they made a comment that she was smiling when she left. So they, and this is who I'm asking, who is they? They got a loan from Garden. Oh no, I'm sorry. White Seed got a loan from Garden and headed east. So at Disc 2, when Squall drops her off on there, they head east. They encounter the Galbadian fleet. They escape, but their ship is too damaged, so they prepare to fight. Then the Estar ship shows up, and they order an evacuation. Here's where I lost what happened. As the Estar ship was leaving, Alone yelled something out and jumped on their ship. Did she jump on the Galbadian ship, or did she jump on the Estar ship?
The Estar ship.
Estar ship.
Okay.
Yep, but I don't know why. I still haven't figured that out either. Do you have any ideas?
I think it's because she probably saw Laguna on the ship and, hey, President Laguna, he can probably help me out right now.
That's true. That's probably how they link up, because this didn't happen that long ago. It would have been a matter of months beforehand.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and then she ended up blasted off to the space station under the guard of the Estars.
Mhm.
Yep. Okay. That timeline makes sense. All right. That was a big question mark that I had. I didn't know if she went with the Galbadians or if she went with the Estar.
She definitely went to the Estar
Okay.
ship. I do know that.
So the kids on this ship and Alone then revealed that our only hope to save Rinoa is to bring those two together. So now we come across this huge quest of we need to figure out how to get unconscious, coma-ridden Rinoa to the moon or wherever the hell she
Or
is.
just to Estar at this
Estar.
point. Because they know Alone's in Estar.
And this is where I was talking to you. I had a huge issue with this because after you leave the White Seed ship, they don't tell you specifically where to go. They just say, you need to take her to Alone. And if you're really not...
No,
They go to Estar.
they say something about to go to Fisherman's Horizon.
Oh,
Do they
to
actually
get there.
really say Fisherman's
they do.
Horizon?
Because that was the one thing that drove me nuts. And I remember this driving me nuts as a kid, too, is that I would hit this part and I'd always... What the hell do I do? You know that you kind of have to go to this continent, and you float around and you can't find anything. You try to jump across some of the gaps in your giant ass boat. That doesn't work. And then finally you just stumble upon like this huge bridge. It's like, okay, well, it's the only way in. How do I do that? But yeah, you get to Fisherman's Horizon and then you end up carrying her
Triggers a cutscene, basically.
across the bridge into Estar. And this is, again, where we start to see a little bit more into Squall, where he starts to wonder if everybody else is okay. So he's starting to show that he actually cares. And sets Rinoa down, he starts talking to her, and he's hoping that she can hear him.
Big shift from where Squall has been.
And then he admits that he worries too much what others think about him. So now, he's always been introspective, but we've never seen that introspective point of him where he says, now he's saying, I worry way too much about what other people think, and I hate that side of me. And that is why I don't want people to get to know me. I am purposely an introvert. Squall in a nutshell.
Exactly.
What do you think, Kev?
That sounds...
Are you becoming a fan of Squall now?
Well, when was I ever not a fan of Squall?
I don't know. Some people, he's a pretty polarizing character.
I think it's interesting that in the first disc, everything Squall did was clearly self-centered.
Yeah.
And then the second disc, they start to give you some options about how to respond to people. Like, you're talking to Selfie, you can either be encouraging or you can keep being tough, reserved Squall or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then in the third disc, they're like, okay, well, Squall is now actually cares about people and thinks about others ahead of himself, kind of thing.
It's a good character development.
I think too. Let's look back at all of the main characters, if you want to call them that, of previous Final Fantasy and future Final Fantasy games for that matter. And the ones that really jump out at me are Tidus from Final Fantasy X and Cloud from Final Fantasy VII. Both of them have a certain degree of charisma to them. Just being total badass type of Cloud. And then, Tidus is super cocky and out there and everything. And then he just got in this Squall, and, he's really, like we've already said, introverted, reserved, talking to himself. And he's not that typical hero that you'd pick out if you just knew him personality-wise. Of course, he's a hero to us because we've leveled him up to level 100 and he got strength to 255. And, he's great. 250. But if you just look at him as a person, like the leader of the Balam Garden now, and it's like, wow, he's the leader? Like, he didn't... Well, what are his leadership qualities?
Have you guys ever come across people in your life that you can't really explain why, but other people are just naturally gravitate towards them, and you have no idea why?
Charisma, my friend. Charisma.
Even if they're a huge douche, people are like, I like you.
The ability to lead people.
Think that's what it is?
I think it to a certain degree.
So, where are we at here?
So we're walking across Fisherman's Horizon.
That's right. And you meet up with Quistis and Zell, and this is where Selfie and Irving come out. And they come across as so stupid because, like, we went north and we went south, but we couldn't find Estar. So, like, you walked across this entire continent and then came back here and told me you couldn't find it.
Yeah.
And then, but we didn't check east. If you check east, you might find it.
This is where it isn't. Stupid. But apparently we're on a quest now to find Dr.
Selfie and Irvine were just out boning somewhere, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, that's got it. Well, yeah.
That's definitely what was happening.
Did you see he was zipping his pants up when he was saying that? He's like, north or south or, I don't know.
I took her north and south.
I went from south to north in a matter of minutes. That Selfie.
Oh. So now we're on a quest to find Dr. Odine, who apparently is the #1 sorceress knowledge holder, and he wants to get rid of Ultimecia.
Correct.
From Adia.
He used to work. An important note here is that he was once a very close advisor or like a correspondent, like a kind of a similar role, like a scientist, type of thing to Sorceress Adele.
Was he?
Yeah.
Back when Adele was ruling.
Back when Adele was
Estar,
ruling.
And she was a huge bitch.
As a tyrant. Yeah.
Gotcha. So they travel through, and we don't see Estar because Estar's got this huge force field around it. And again, they run into this wall, this door opens, and everyone's like, well, what should we do? And Squall says, I don't care. Nothing's going to surprise me anymore. Let's go. So he's dead set on, like, this is what I have to do. There's nothing that's going to stop him from doing it now. So he's finally come around with his purpose. And then we go into another awesome Laguna scene.
Well, we're missing some things now.
What are we missing?
Okay, so there's a boss battle right there.
Is there?
Yes. And then
No, there's not.
yeah, back it up here. So right when they are in they keep walking east, right?
Yeah.
And they you have a small boss battle, and then they realize that it's a force field.
Oh.
Okay? So when they realize it's a force field, because you face this boss, you kind of walk around once you get to the spot where you face the boss. Then you walk a couple of screens past that, and you see the background flicker, like like a bad reception on TV. And they're like, what the fuck is this? So they are able to deduce that there's this all of a sudden there's a ladder that they can climb up, and there is a...
They're going to climb this invisible ladder.
Yep, there's an invisible ladder that they climb up, and there's a door. Therefore, that's the first time they really see Estar, because they enter this essentially this structure, which brings them through the force field, and eventually they're traveling through the tubes of Estar. They just come out of the tubes, and then they pass out and faint again and go into this next Laguna scene.
I hate that city so much.
Estar, it is such a bitch to navigate.
What I don't understand is the least they could do is leave that shuttle system open.
Oh god!
Like, so you can just climb on the things and get buzzed to like another side of the city, like kind of how in Delling City there was the bus system. And
I spent probably a half an hour looking for the shopping mall so I could purchase more of those weapons monthlies using Tonberry's Familiar. I just kept walking around and around and around, and once I got to the shopping mall, I went out the other side. Like, I've been on this screen like 9 times, and I just never came down. That city sucks.
Yeah, I think that's the exact same thing that happened to me. And then I found that one of the lifts actually brings you straight to the shopping center.
But if you're going to the shopping center after the city has been attacked, they don't work.
Yeah, I guess that screws you over.
Yeah. The Laguna scene.
I think this is one of the most important Laguna scenes.
I didn't catch this until you explained it to me last night. So Kiro, you're brought back into Laguna, Kiros, and Ward, and you're in, at this time, are you in the Lunatic Pandora?
No.
You're in Estar.
You're in Estar, and apparently you have been captured by Estar soldiers at this time and being forced to work as a slave.
Yes. And then Kiros and Ward are dispatched to Lunatic Pandora while Laguna is stuck slaving away here doing whatever the hell he's doing on the floor.
Right.
He ends up saving a Moomba from falling off the edge, and another slave convinces him he should be the leader of their resistance. Because all of the workers are dissatisfied with Adele's ruling of Estar. So through a series of battles, they break free and find Dr. Odine talking about using Lunatic Pandora as a weapon. But who's controlling it? And that's when they learn the Galbadians are controlling it, right? No, I'm sorry.
No.
At this point, they still control it.
Right.
They had just excavated it.
Right.
They control it.
They want to use it as a weapon.
But they don't know how to control it.
They don't know how to control it. And that's what kind of led to them ending up, in the end, sinking it because they can't control it.
But another one of those aides in there has another throwaway line that says, there's a rumor of little girls being abducted for the Sorceress research. And Odine doesn't care about the well-being of the little girls. He cares more about the research. And it turns out that aide member, he's a resistance member, and he reveals that Odine has become obsessed with finding Alone. So Laguna heads back in to confront him, and that's where we flip back to Squall.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And I think another thing to note here is that, Laguna has really no interest at all for helping Estar. He really doesn't. He gets there, he's obviously captured, they put him to work, and this other, this resistance member, this other one who is there with him, notices his qualities, and he makes the comment of
saving a dog from falling over an edge.
Well, more than that, he faced the Estar soldiers as well.
That's true.
He's like, we have a resistance, and we want to make our move, but we have no one to lead us. And they just more or less, they didn't need a warrior. They just needed a face. They needed
a figure to follow.
Right. They needed a modern day Adolf Hitler for them. They needed somebody to just come in there and just propaganda and lead all the people. Really, that is what you have here. That is all you have here. I don't mean to equate him to one of the most evil tyrants in history, but I will say he was very charismatic, and that's how he ended up coming to power.
Well, good versus evil is all a matter of perspective, I guess.
Well, I'm not saying that Hitler is good. I'm saying that he took over his people. He was a figurehead, and
He's charismatic.
he was charismatic.
People liked him, even though he was a dick.
I know. He didn't tell half the people what he was doing. So,
True. It's okay. They're all sleeping.
I'm not a neo-Nazi, by the way.
Why is your head shaved? So this is the first time that Adi has been back to Estar in 17 years. And since then, the city's been super cut off. And they kind of go through this thought process of like, well, maybe we shouldn't have cut ourselves off. Maybe we kind of should have shared our knowledge with the world around us. And Squall gets to this point where he's just starting to demand to see Alone. And Odine agrees to let Squall see Alone as long as he can study Rinoa. And I'm assuming it's that same aide, warns that the doctor doesn't care much for his subjects.
Oh, maybe. I guess I don't know if it's the same aid or not.
But then people start talking about the lunar cry. And which we'll get to in a minute. But the last one landed by Travia, and isn't that where that crater is? In the continent? Isn't that by Travia?
I thought it was in Centra. The Centra continent. That's what destroyed everything on the Centra continent.
The lunar cry?
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
That's what I thought too.
That's why Centra continent is barren. That's why there's nothing there.
And there's all monsters.
Yeah.
So Odine says, yes, you can see Alone, but you have to head out to the Lunar Gate, which you get into these capsules. They put you to sleep, and they just fire you out of a gun into space. There's not much science behind it. It's, get in, we're going to shoot you to space.
It's Final Fantasy. You got guys fighting with fucking swords.
Theoretically, it's
like,
possible.
It's not. Science you gotta kind of throw aside in these things.
Well, then, once they're on their merry way to the moon, this huge object enters the continent, and it's revealed to be Lunatic Pandora, and Dr. Odine's like, why is it here? We sunk this. Who's moving it? Turns out the Galbadians salvaged it, and he realizes it's not going to attack the city, but it's headed to Tears Point. And it's there to receive the Lunar Cry.
Right.
So this is where he also explains that Lunatic Pandora has this crystal in it, right? Mm-hmm. The Lunatic Pandora has an effect on the moon, and together with Tears Point, they will maximize the effect of the monsters. And inside is a blue rock? No, there's a crystal in there. I don't remember what the name of it is, but it pulls the monsters down from the moon. Yeah. Anyway, we get to the moon base. We put Rinoa in the med lab, and now people are already talking about breaking Adele's seal because there's this perfect gravitational balance between the moon and the stars, and it's perfect for the seal. So that's why it's out here. This is another part that I didn't catch too, is back on Estar, everybody's complaining that their president is gone. Like, hey, all this shit's going wrong. Where's our president? Come to find out he's on the moon base, personally tending to the seal of Adele. And this is where I didn't realize who that was. Kevin, did you catch who that is?
Not at this point, no.
It's Laguna.
No, I still had no idea.
Yep. Yeah. At this point, they do not disclose that yet. He's always wearing a spacesuit or something at this point, so you can't tell who it is.
Yeah. So they start to see that, hey, enemies are clustering on the moon, and once they fall, that's called the Lunar Cry. They don't seem too concerned about it. They're like, yeah, hey, this is starting to happen. You find Alone, and she admits now that she can't change the past. And so she's coming to this realization of everything I've done is pointless. All you can do is see things in a new perspective and kind of use that to change how you live in the present. And you, in fact, are the one who changes, not the past. And that pisses Squall off. He's like, I refuse to believe that.
Why didn't she send a message to Ultimecia at this point that, hey, I can't change the past. No point in coming back. Time compression through me is useless.
You're wasting your time, lady.
Wasting your time.
As you're talking to her, the moon base kind of goes into red alert, and Rinoa has broken free and begins going through the process of unsealing Adele. And as that's happening, the lunar cry is starting, and just shit starts falling apart. Yeah.
Yeah, really. And, at this point, you didn't know that, you knew Alone was in, or excuse me, not Alone, Rinoa was in this coma, but you really didn't know that she was possessed until now.
So,
because she finally wakes up. And there's this big long scene of her walking like a zombie.
She's got superhuman strength.
Yeah, to the control room. And if you're like me, you take Squall and you ram into her 100 times, and you just keep bouncing off her like a force field. And
well, you got to check to see if one of the times it doesn't knock you back.
Oh yeah,
there may be a hidden Easter egg where she snaps and she's like, "Oh, hi, Squall.
Oh, what's up?
Game over.
Hey, Squall. What's up?" But so this is kind of a new point in the game too. You don't know that Rinoa had actually in that battle with Adia back at the end of Disc 2. When you defeated her, she actually received the power of the Sorceress Ultimecia into her. She is now a sorceress.
Yes, but we don't know that at this point yet. But we know it now, but not at this point in the game.
Right. Well, you see her, she's possessed by something.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I guess I assumed at this point she was possessed by
someone.
Or someone. I guess we'll call it that. We didn't know it was Ultimecia.
So we're following Rinoa out into space, and she's heading towards the tomb to finish unsealing it, because Ultimecia wants to repossess Adele.
Correct.
Okay. Squall can't follow to prevent her from releasing it, so he petitions Alone, send me back to her past. I need to see if I can change it. So she doesn't do this. So she's like, I can't send you back because I've never met her. And he's like, just do it anyway. So she starts sending him back, and she sends him back too far to like the Irving and Rinoa rescue from the missile base, and then the Zell and Rinoa ring exchange. And then he sends her back to the scene with the battle you were just talking about, where Rinoa becomes possessed. And he has an obvious effect, because at the end, when Rinoa collapses, Adia looks at the screen and she's like, who's there? Right?
Yeah.
And there's actual communication, because some text boxes come up and it's Squall saying Rinoa. And then you get a response when Rinoa's unconscious of saying, Squall, I'm scared. And that's when Ultimecia notices, and she says out loud, who's there? She notices somebody's there. Yep. So Squall is having an effect on her.
I do remember that now. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. He can change the past. It's all passion of the heart.
Ooh. Just hit one there. Passion of the heart.
That comes up later.
It does.
Kevin, how is your brain doing at this point? Do you still think we're reading too much into shit?
Have we prepared for this too long?
No, I don't think you've prepared too long.
You've been kind of
I just think it seems to me like Ultimecia, this has been her plan the whole time, is to free Adele, right?
Yes.
So first she takes over Adia, thinking that Adia and Cypher together will be strong enough to
free her,
to get her up into space, apparently. And when she finds out that that's not the case, she reads the fact that, hey, Squall will pretty much do anything for Rinoa. So if I possess Rinoa and just pretend to be blacked out for a couple weeks, then maybe Squall will just say, hey, let's go to space for some reason.
Well, that's actually a good point, because on the lunar base, the head scientist there makes a comment like, why is all of this happening? And he specifically says all of this could have only been planned by Ultimecia.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it's like everything happens at the exact right moment. Like Rinoa gets to space right as the cry is happening,
Yep.
breaks the seal, and the cry pulls the tomb or the prison cell or whatever you want to call it down to Earth in its wave.
Yes.
you got to remember too. I mean, Ultimecia does have the power to see into the past, just not that far. So essentially, time she can control that variable like we can't. We can't predict what's going to happen in the future, but she can look and say, "Oh, these events happened. I want to go back to this time." And just like Kevin just said here, I'll just hang around for, in a coma for a little while. Squall will do something. Maybe they'll eventually go to space, and they did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I have a batshit crazy theory that I might as well throw out there because you guys
Is Squall dead?
are pulling up all this crazy
BSC.
shit. No, Squall's not dead.
Squall's not dead.
I've read a lot of things on the internet about talking about how Rinoa is Ultimecia, blah blah blah.
Okay.
But what if Alone is actually Ultimecia?
That would...
I
I don't know if I could get behind that because there's so much shit that's happening because people are looking for Alone. And Alone is the only one who can do this time compression. So if Alone was Ultimecia, she would just be like, all right, hey, I'm me, time compression.
Yeah, but if
elaborate a little bit more.
what
Kevin.
if for some reason she doesn't remember
Too many Guardian
that that's
forces?
the case? But the thing is, it's like they're both the only people who can travel back in time, right?
Oh,
It seems like
I see what you
that's
mean.
just a little too lined up.
I see what you mean. So, like, okay.
Maybe. What if
I'm entertaining this theory.
What if
But-
Ultimecia is this,
So what-
or what if
go ahead.
Alone is this era's version of Ultimecia, but she's just a longer living person? So she is in the future trying to come back to connect with her past self,
Right.
to amplify her power.
Right. That's
'Cause
exactly.
Yeah, because there was one thing that happened with what was the professor's name?
Odine?
Or the doctor?
Odine.
Odine, yeah. When he's explaining the final mission and he comes in and starts talking about all this crazy shit, he makes reference to the fact that because of his research,
Wait.
they were able to synthesize time travel, essentially.
Hold off on that point for a minute, because we'll get to that. I actually had that highlighted. That's something I wanted to talk about, too. So, can you park that for a second?
Okay.
Okay.
Mark.
Because you and I can compare thoughts at that point. Okay? Got it?
All right.
Okay.
All right.
So back to Rinoa floating through space. Actually, no, sorry. Alone says that she's going to take Squall to Rinoa's closest past, which obviously is her floating through space, because it's happening at that point. And she says she will not hear your voice, but she'll feel your heart. And at this point, we know Squall has already taken up more of a vested interest in Rinoa, and he has very clear feelings for her. So Rinoa's floating through space. She knows she's going to die, and Squall calls out. And he says, I'm right here with you. And she wakes up to see the ring floating in front of her. And by this point, she'd already given up to die. And she wakes up, she's like, I'm still alive? And suddenly she realizes, oh, there's an emergency life support button here.
Yeah, that was pretty out there for me. I'm like, come on.
What would
But-
you do if you're
Well,
suffocating
no, think
in
about
space?
this. Rinoa, how would she know that that's there? If we put you into
And that's what I was
a
about to
NASA
say, right?
spacesuit, so how do we know that maybe Squall didn't influence her and say, hey, there's this button without coming out? Because that would have been really dumb if they would have put that into text form and be like, Rinoa, there's a button on your helmet, press it.
But how would Squall have known
That's
either?
Because he's in there with all of the people around the spacesuits who know this, and they could have said, tell her about this.
Yeah, I just don't know.
Yeah,
I just don't know about that one.
Well, anyway.
I think you're kind of reaching with that one.
So
reading
Squall
into it.
decides to go out and catch her, and she reveals, I did hear you, when she, in fact, just felt his heart. But now they're both out there spinning through space, and they're going to die. And just coincidentally, they're on the correct side of the planet, just close enough to the old abandoned Ragnarok airship.
Yeah. Just so happens.
Way too coincidental.
let's just back it up a second. Who missed Rinoa in the first couple of tries with, at least the first try?
Nope, I got her
trying
first.
to catch
missed
it.
the first try.
I missed the first try because I didn't realize it was a controllable scene. I was just watching, and all of a sudden I'm
There
like,
she goes.
I'm like, oh, I can actually influence the camera here and go past her. And all of a sudden you just see her float right past you, and then it goes back, and it's like, keep her in the center of the screen. I'm like,
No,
well,
I got her
for
first
telling
try.
me. Okay.
I didn't know which one I was the first time I did it. Like, I thought I was the little speck and I was supposed to come towards the camera.
Oh, I see.
So I just kept holding down.
That's it. It's exactly what I did right away. I thought it was, so I was holding down and then they just floated away.
So
everybody died.
Inside the Ragnarok, this is probably the dumbest part of the game, in my opinion, is defeating the propagators. I hated that.
I don't know. They're not too difficult.
Who the hell are the propagators? I just feel like this is something that they put in the game. It's like, oh, we need another puzzle. Put a puzzle in here.
Yeah, well, yeah,
and
true.
if you don't, they give you no indication that you have to beat the yellows, then the purples, then the reds, then the greens.
You can actually find a journal in the Ragnarok somewhere. Where is it? I think I want to say it's in that conference room.
Okay.
Like where you'll end up later in the game here, and there are notes that say something to the effect of you've got to defeat one color or both colors of the same propagator to kill them. Otherwise, the other color goes and revives them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's dumb. But I have to admit that this is probably the most powerful scene in the entire game for me. The inside the Ragnarok. For as many times as I've played through bits and pieces of this game, this is the one scene that has always stuck with me. Just because you're out in space, you've got that song playing in the background. And this is where you kind of Squall reveals a little bit more about himself as well. You make it to the cockpit, and Estar Air Station contacts you. You're like, wow, it's been 17 years. So is this the ship that Laguna took up? Or I don't understand.
I don't know where
piece.
Ragnarok
It just kind of appears. But anyway, they said that's fine. We're going to guide you back down, and they say who's on board, and Squall says it's me and Rinoa, and they just kind of leave it at that. Rinoa hops in his lap, and they kind of have this goofy little conversation, and Squall kind of goes through, I can't remember anything about my parents. I can only remember Alone. She was there, and then she was just suddenly gone. So that goes back to what you were talking before, Kevin, about why didn't Ultimecia just take Alone at the orphanage? And he's afraid of losing that comforting feeling, and then Squall makes a comment about... It's like, I'm not your mom, Rinoa. And the only thing he can think of in this moment is like getting her back in her cockpit seat. So you just get in your own seat. And I think deep down he knows that they can't stay together when they get back because they're going to take her.
Mm-hmm. And Rinoa is also fearful of that. When Squall discloses that Rinoa is on board, you see her apprehension about wanting to go back.
Yeah.
Because she knows it's the end for her.
Well, and Squall's at a crossroads with this too, because he's like, I don't know what to do. Well, this is just another crossroad in my life. This is the first time that I actually don't know where to go. And he has this inner dialogue of like, I've come this far because I've fallen for you. So this is where he reveals, yes, I do love you, but do I just let you go? And the next couple decisions that he makes kind of reveal that, because people get pissed off at him for a decision that he makes thinking it's the right thing. They get back to the air station, and that's when they reveal, hey, Rinoa is a sorceress. And Squall does try to stop her from going with, and he gives her his ring to keep. Apparently, Alone has gone missing, and then Zell pops in with his stupid face and says that the Galbadians are in control of lunatic Pandora because Estar sank it. They revived it. Inside's this crystal pillar. Everything's just going to shit, and everyone's pissed off that Squall didn't stop Rinoa. And that's where this is where you gain control of the Ragnarok, and you can go around and do some other shit.
And lots of shit there was to do.
Yes.
Let's take a break from story and talk about that other shit for a minute.
Yeah, side quest, please.
What did you do, Kevin?
Well, the first thing I did was the first fight in Disc 3 for my playthrough is using the level up ability.
Uh-huh.
and getting this first boss to a high level, and then getting a whole bunch of free spells off him.
Which boss is that?
And I had, I don't remember. I think it was the one heading into Esthar, maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, I hadn't got Tonberry at that point because I'm like, well, I'll do it later, kind of thing. So I was kind of panicking, thinking that I was gonna totally pooch my playthrough because I didn't have Tonberry. And luckily enough, I was able to first thing you do is you get control, so you can fly back and get it first thing in disc 3. So I went and got it, and then I figured, well, since I'm here, I'm probably going to need Odin later on for some bullshit reason.
Absolute moron.
Yeah, so I pick up Odin too.
So for people who
okay.
forgot, Kevin's doing a low-level playthrough, and he cannot win any non-boss battles, and Odin pops in at random and kills enemies for you.
Zantastuken.
Zantetsuken.
Yeah.
Zantastuken. Luken.
I don't think
Hadouken. Shoryuken.
So yeah, so I
Can
pick
you
up...
come up with any other...
Renzo Kuken. Okay, I'm done.
I pick up Odin and Tonberry.
How?
And then start leveling them up or whatever. And one of the later things I have to do is get initiative on someone with the Mug ability,
Right.
and then fight Marlboros and steal from them and run away before they can use Bad Breath.
Doom Train.
So you can get Doom Train.
So I can get Doom Train. And
very difficult.
So yeah, and the only place you fight him is the island closest to Hell. Or Heaven.
Yeah, they're on
I don't
both.
remember which one.
They're on both.
Are they on both?
I farmed those places a lot.
And yeah, so first time I fight him, of course, since they have a fixed level, they're not leveled relative to you.
Mm-hmm.
First thing that happens is Odin shows up because I'm fighting a fight that's vastly out of my range, at least according to the game. So Odin shows up when you're about to lose a fight kind of thing. So he shows up, kills a Marlboro. I got like 7,000 experience per first. So I'm like, well, fuck.
Reset.
Reload.
Is that when you initially discovered, like, fuck, I should not have gotten Odin?
Yeah,
and you didn't have a game save before you got him?
I think I lost about a half an hour on that.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So, I mean, it wasn't
not
too
so
bad.
but still.
But you couldn't go back and not get Odin.
No, that's right.
Okay.
So, at least probably 10 or 15 more times over the course of the disc, I had to reset.
Yeah, I imagine so.
How often were you
go
saving
back
then?
just because Odin randomly shows up?
Did that increase the frequency of how often you saved?
Absolutely. Every single battle after every single battle I saved.
Yeah, and I guess, you're showing that you can do this. You can do this low-level playthrough if you get Odin.
Yeah, but don't.
Let's just be prepared. It's gonna be fucking
It's gonna
hell.
suck.
It's gonna blow.
Yeah, I probably spent at least half an hour, 45 minutes just saving and loading my game in this this
I
playthrough.
want to talk about the Marlboros for a minute because those guys are a son of a bitch. Not because they're hard to fight, but because they never show up. Ever. I walked around.
Oh yeah, they have a really low encounter
I walked
rate.
around for an hour and a half, and Derek was playing concurrently with me, and he was just Marlboro.
They show up.
I walked around for an hour and a half on Island Closest to Heaven, never fought a single one, and then he turns his game off and goes to bed. Boom! I get a Marlboro, steal 4 tentacles, get another one immediately after that, steal 4 more. I'm like, all right, well, that paid off.
I will say I feel that, if you are going to waste I shouldn't say waste your time. If you're going to spend time getting Marlboro tentacles, do it before you go to the moon.
Yes.
Because they are on the Esthar continent. And that way you can actually encounter them a little bit more. They're lower level, so they're a little bit easier. And if you miss that point after the lunar cry, then they are no longer present on Esthar continent.
But
so you
it's
have to
still-
go island closest to heaven or island closest
The
to hell.
easiest way to fight him is to draw 100 Isanas for each character and put that on your status defense.
And I will say this too. For one of your characters, and I happen to say do it on your strongest character, which in my case is Squall. You've got to have 100 Confuse, 100 Berserk, and 100 silence. And what that does is if you can equip, along with the Yasana, if you can equip that to one of your characters, you will at least be able to control your character after he casts Bad Breath, and then therefore cast Isana on your other characters. Thus, you can actually battle him. Because my first time I ran into a Marlboro, he just wiped me out. Because it was, everybody got confused and berserked and poisoned and petrified. And eventually we all turned to stone.
Yeah.
Game over.
See, and yours was weird because you were trying to tell me that it was causing petrify. On mine, when I would die, it was not petrification. They would die. Their HP would zero out and they'd fall to the ground and they would die.
Yeah, mine was petrify. I know for a fact it was petrify. I don't know why.
So, Kevin, did you do the Deep Sea Research Center?
Yes, I did do the Deep Sea Research Center. And I have no idea why it took you as long as it did.
I have no idea
because
either.
Encounter None does work.
No, it
there,
does not.
And you're crazy.
Yes, I did not use Encounter None, and I'm talking about when you actually get down now, not before you face Bahamut. But
it doesn't work when you're walking up to Bahamut.
Right.
No, it doesn't work.
I had like 2, maybe 3 battles on my way down. And I had nothing. I had no Encounter None on. I had no Encounter Half on. Just normal Encounter.
When you get down to that first save point in the excavation ruins, from there down to Ultima Weapon, I would get about 3/4 of the way. I'd fight a Ruby Dragon, and he would cast some bullshit spell on me and would kill everybody, regardless of their health.
Breath.
So then I would be back and I'd be like, fuck, I got to do this again. So I'd get down there, die to the same thing, and finally I decided to restructure how my stuff was junctioned, and I killed him. But it still took me forever. Every step was a battle. And it was not fast battles. You were fighting Ruby Dragons, you were fighting Twin Golems, you were fighting Behemoths. It was the most absurd walk down. And then when I got down there, thank God I had the move find on so you could find that secret save point. Because if I would have had to fight Ultima and die and do that again, I would not have been getting eaten. But it was worth it to sit down there and fight Ultima and just draw 100 Ultima spells for everybody.
Ultima was fun. Ultima was a real fun battle.
Did you guys beat him first go?
Yes.
Yes.
Did not get 100 Ultimas for one of my characters because I killed them too soon.
Aww.
But I did end up drawing them out from other point slayers. So it was all good, but really fun.
Did you guys do any of the other side quests, like the alien encounters and the Chocobo forests, anything like that?
I did not do any of that. I think there's still time in Disc 4.
Well,
so
once you hit Disc 4, if you want to get Ragnarok back, it is a long walk and huge process to get it back.
Yes, sir. I only know that from guides, but
I've done it once.
Apparently, some of the side quests as well are locked upon entering Disc 4. It's very similar to, if you remember in Final Fantasy VII, there was a lot of towns that you could not enter anymore and things like that. It's very similar to that. So, listeners, if you're thinking about saying, screw it, we'll go get it in Disc 4. Get everything done in Disc 3.
Yeah, not gonna happen.
Get everything done in Disc 3.
But don't you need the Ragnarok to fight Omega?
I'm not exactly sure.
I don't know. We'll save that for next show.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, back to doing normal shit, we need to head to the Sorceress Memorial, and Rinoa is about to be entombed. And she's surprised to see Squall. She's like, what are you doing here? I thought you let me go. And Squall says, I'm here to do what I should have done earlier. I'll never know unless I do it. And then he ends up breaking her out, but Rinoa says, don't, I'm a sorceress. And then on the way out, this is another thing that Derek explained to me too, I didn't pick up on, is when you're walking out, nobody stops you. But Squall stops and he looks at this big fat dude and he's like, that man, I've seen him before. And I didn't put it together who that was until you go meet Laguna later, and apparently that's Ward.
Right.
Yeah, I figured that one out.
Well, I'm just stupid.
Immediately upon re-entering Estar, you're able to basically go and figure out that you're supposed to meet up with the president. You go in, you find out, hey, president is Laguna.
Well, we're not there yet. We go to Adia's house.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So
sorry,
this is where you meet Rinoa in the flower field, and that's from the opening cutscene. He's like, I'll be right here waiting for you, and blah, blah, blah.
The hug that you see isn't, in the Final Fantasy VIII logo
That's
when
in
they
this.
hug? Yeah. Yep.
So this is kind of an interesting conversation, and Squall offers some reassurances to Rinoa that, hey, there are some good sorceresses out there. Look at Adia, for example. Yeah, she got possessed by Ultimecia and tried to kill me,
Put an ice spike through my chest.
but she's still generally a good person. And Rinoa is going through this whole dialogue of, well, if I'm the sorceress, Seed is going to come and kill me, and Squall, since you're the leader of Seed, you're going to be the one who's tasked with killing me. And she's kind of strangely okay with that, as long as it's him and nobody else. But the way Squall responds kind of brings a parallel to Cypher and Adia, because Squall says, even if you end up becoming the world's enemy, I'll be your knight. And Cypher is continually referring to himself as Adia's knight. So, back to perspective, good versus evil is just simply a matter of perspective. If we would have been seeing the side of Cypher and Adia from their perspective, maybe they would have been the heroes.
Another thing to think about, too, is that think about Sid and Adia. In love, husband and wife. Sid wasn't going to be the one to kill her.
That's true.
And basically tasked Squall with this mission. And now Squall is in that position.
So Squall just kind of ignores it. And he's like, just stay close to me. And Rinoa gets super excited because those were pretty much the first words that Squall said to Rinoa, and she gets all gooey about it. And he's like, I don't remember that. I just blame it on the GF again. And I like how she calls him out. She's like, that's such a lame excuse.
Did you catch that, Kevin?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, she actually does call him on it.
Then she kind of shares this dream. She had a scary dream where she and Squall promised to see the shooting stars together, but she can't remember where to meet them. So she runs all over the world. She lists Trabia and Balam and Estar and
GF attached to her.
And she can't find Squall, so she wakes up screaming. And Squall's like, that doesn't mean anything. It's kind of this heartless approach, but he kind of finally admits that it means nothing because they haven't promised to do it yet. So they make this promise to wait for each other in this field. So at the beginning cutscene, it's like, I'll be here waiting for you, whatever. That's where this stems from. And then Zell pops back in and says, hey, spoke to Kyros. They got a plan to defeat the Sorceress. And this is kind of what kicks off the final push to the summit of this disc. Nothing? Like, nothing? Really? Like, that was a solid 5 seconds of just nothing?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought Kevin was going to say something. Sorry.
I was just basking in the glory of how easy this story is to follow.
Hey, if you take notes, the story is real easy to follow.
Notes. I didn't take a goddamn note.
And we're back at the point where Adia shares where she first became a sorceress, blah, blah, blah. Head to the presidential palace, and you learn that Laguna is the president. So when he was battling the resistance, they obviously built him up to become the president, and Laguna, or Ward and Kyros are his little patsies. Yeah.
And if we remember from measure 1104,
bring it back, Derek.
bring it full circle. You do find out here that Laguna, Ward, and Kyros, who you all meet in these cheesy robes that they're wearing now, except Laguna, that they have considered them the fairies all along. These people that have been in their heads, that they realized way back when, but couldn't attribute it to anything. But now they know that that Squall and Zell and all the gang were eventually in their heads at one point in time. And, it kind of comes full circle there. And I thought that was kind of a cool part where they finally get to meet Laguna. Think back, guys, think back to the first time, it did a flashback and you were Laguna and Ward and Kyros as Galbadian soldiers.
Like, what the hell's going on?
I thought that was fucked up. Yeah. I'm like, what is this? What's going on? It's not the same weapons, and all that stuff.
Yeah, that did not make sense.
And the first time I played it, I'm like, is this a different, parallel universe version of Squall? Because he looks like him. He's got a gun blade.
That's the thing. He didn't have a gun blade. He had a gun.
Oh, yeah, you're right. The man with the machine gun.
Which, by the way, why did Laguna have a gun when he was a slave on they enslaved him, and then he gets into a battle, and then he has a machine gun in his hand. They couldn't make him have fists for one battle.
So, Kevin, this is back where you were jumping ahead to before with Dr. Odine's plan and what they had done with Alone.
Yes.
Which is?
Well, I'm just talking about because Odin comes off to me as like your stereotypical like scientist researcher guy who's like, oh, everything that I've done is the reason why. Like, I started all this research that's glorious in the future, and it was all me, it was all me, it was all me. When in reality, it could have had nothing to do with him, and it could just have been Alone got older and became Ultimecia, and then...
So this is... I had a huge issue with this part of the story. Like, this actually kind of ruins a whole part of it, because Odine talks about how they mechanized Alone's brain, and...
Yeah, and that's what I don't get.
He's all really proud about how his... Right now it's a prototype, it's just a trinket. And in the future they've mechanized it and it's being used what he kind of insinuates to be a good purpose. And this is where I'm thinking, well, if you made that machine now and it's sitting in that office over there, and 1,000 or 100,000 years from now it's being used to come back here and cause all this turmoil, why don't we just go into that room and smash it?
Good point.
Would that not alleviate everything?
Maybe?
Not if Ultimecia is alone.
But either way,
go.
future that actually kind of brings it around because future Ultimecia is using Odine's machine to come back. So if he goes in and goes
Allegedly using the machine. That's just what they
hell
assume.
Are we lawyers?
I object.
Well, no, when it's like you're listening to him say, I made this thing and it's so awesome, and you just have to trust me that it's awesome because I tell you
Maybe
it's awesome.
Odine is Ultimecia.
Oh, shit.
They never do disclose. Do they ever say Ultimecia is female?
She's a sorceress.
Ah, yeah, I guess so.
Maybe there is no Ultimecia. So they discover and Odine tries to break down his huge-ass convoluted plan, and it boils down to the only way to beat her is to go to her time, because she does not exist. But we cannot go to her time, so we need to facilitate her time compression. And I am going to, at this point, temporarily relinquish my insistence that Squall is dead, based on a conversation that Laguna has, because I was basing my entire theory around the ending of the game, and I'm not going to spoil it, but this conversation right here pretty much debunks my belief as to why I think Squall might be dead. So as Laguna's explaining the plan in layman's terms, so it's not super complex, the only way is to actually exist in Ultimecia's realm. And he said there's only one way we can exist in Ultimecia's realm. And he goes on to say, as friends, do not forget one another. As friends, believe in one another. Believe in your friend's existence, and they will believe in yours. What place reminds you of your friends? Imagine being there with them, and once time compression begins, simply try to get to that place. So that conversation right there, just let's remember that completely destroys why I think Squall is dead, because it totally makes sense with the ending of the game.
Let's be real here. There were a lot of things that destroyed this theory, but this is just one that really does stand
no, but
true the purists who believe that.
I didn't want to go through and be like, he's dead. Nope, he's dead.
It was an interesting point to bring along.
Yeah, but this conversation right here debunks the entire thing, and I'll explain it once we get to talking about the actual end of the game. But this right here for me is the defining point in breaking that theory up. Onward, you decide we're going to attack Lunatic Pandora, and probably the coolest thing that I totally forgot about is that, yeah, Ragnarok, while he looks like a dragon, he actually is a fucking dragon.
Yeah, I know, and that's kind of what I thought when they were in space and Ragnarok just shows up kind of thing. Maybe it, like, actively was seeking them out.
Who knows? Because he has arms. And he claws his way in. He was so cool. Like, the coolest airship in any Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I second that. rock on, Final Fantasy. You
It was
created
so
an awesome
awesome.
airship.
And they put so many cool scenes
Not a
in there.
fucking
Like
boat with propellers.
when you come off Lunatic Pandora and like the claws are there and you see Ragnarok's head with his jaw down and that's what they're walking out. Or the scene with Ragnarok at the Estar Air Station. Like, it just doesn't get any cooler than the Ragnarok.
Ragnarok. Definitely
But yeah,
takes
maybe because I mean, in past Final Fantasy games, Ragnarok has always been an Esper. So maybe in this one, he's actually a guardian.
He's a guardian
who
force.
just happens to be a giant
Yeah,
spaceship.
he's a guardian force in the
guardian
form
force.
of a mechanized creature.
Esper. They've used him as swords.
Yeah.
They've used him as swords in the past. So yeah.
So he could be the reason that Squall and Rinoa survived. And maybe Ragnarok just disappeared on his own. It's like, screw you guys, I'm out of here.
Perhaps.
Either that, or maybe it was the ship that Laguna had, and maybe the reason he came back is because he knows, like Ragnarok, that the Guardian Force knows that Squall is Laguna's son.
Yeah. And
I'm still convinced, because I know at the beginning we were talking like, well, nope, there's no way that Squall can be Laguna's son because Julia is not Squall's mother. We've already proven that. But I actually am kind of convinced that
We didn't know
baby
about Rain
that
at this
died,
time.
or not the baby, when Rain died giving birth, Alone wasn't there, Laguna wasn't there. We never know who that kid is.
Yep.
And, hold on, I got it. Because Squall always refers to Alone as Big Sis.
Well, everybody referred
when
to
they were little, right?
Everybody referred to Alone as Sis. Yeah.
Did they?
They did.
Did they really?
They did, but the real kicker here, and you don't know anything yet, but before you fly into Lunatic Pandora, in the conference room in Ragnarok, Laguna, Ward, and Kyros are in there. And if you talk to Laguna says something to the effect that make it back because there's a lot that I have to tell you.
Does he really?
Yes. Yep.
Dude, he's his dad. He's gotta be.
He's got to be his dad. I think that Laguna somehow knows already, and that's why he was even like sent to that orphanage. Him and Alone were somehow sent to this orphanage to live.
So here's what I'm gonna do.
I don't know.
On disc 4, I'm gonna make it a point to get Ragnarok back, and I'm gonna explore and talk to as many friggin' people as I can. And just see if I can uncover more of this.
Yeah, I think a lot of it will be uncovered in the main storyline, to tell you the truth. I don't recall. It's been a long time since I played.
That's cool though. I'd never put that together. I'd always had that sneaking suspicion, but for the wrong reasons. Because I'd never really caught the part about Rain. And that doesn't come up unless you keep talking to Alone. But anyway, you're back in Lunatic Pandora. You meet Raijin and Fujin, the bumbling idiots, again.
The robot.
They are a joke of a battle.
What was Fujin's last words again? Callous. Bro.
Power down. I thought it was funny that you run into Biggs and Wedge again. I love how they have recurring characters throughout the game, and they're just sitting there bitching about the leader. They don't say who it is, but you infer that it's Cypher, and Biggs says something to Wedge like, well, why don't you become the leader? And he's like, let's just go. And they just kind of amble on. And it's just a throwaway interaction that it's like, you saw these people in the beginning. They're just a bunch of idiots from the Seed Mission Tower. And here they are again at the end of the game, just being a bunch of idiots.
Yep. Kind of bringing it full circle.
So you run into a battle with Cypher, and Raijin and Fujin at that point defect and decide to let Alone go and say, hey, go run to Laguna.
Or, no, not Laguna, but...
Yeah, they tell Alone, go run to Laguna. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And Fujin and Raijin admit that they only have Squall to rely on, and they're like, that's kind of sad.
They miss the old Seifer. They see Seifer as a puppet at this point.
Well, and then he goes on to kind of counter that with, he sees himself as a young revolutionary. He always has to be doing something big. Even if it doesn't need to be done, he's doing it. And they get into the battle, and I thought it was kind of cool that Squall, or Cypher starts taunting Squall. He's like, let me give you another scar.
Yep. Yep. Who else, too? Well, big things in this, and Kevin, you wouldn't have experienced this if you didn't get Odin. Odin shows up at the beginning of this battle. And the first time you play, I remember being like, what the hell? Like, this is a boss battle.
Damn it, I wanted to fight him.
This is a boss battle. How is this going to happen? But Seifer actually takes out Odin.
Yep.
Okay. Odin's sword, his little slasher thing, flies into the sky, is caught by something, but you have no idea what. You just know it's been caught.
It's Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh shows up. And The interesting thing about me when I did this battle is I saw that Seifer had the spell Aura. So I am drawing 100 auras from this guy. And started doing it. I did not even hit this guy once. All of a sudden, Gilgamesh shows up and takes out Seifer. I did not hit him once. So for those needing a little guidance.
And that didn't happen to me either. I sat and drew a bunch of auras and then hit him 3 times and he died. But what was the whole conversation that Gilgamesh was having?
I was pretty angry with that fight because I had to use level up to get him a high enough level to have aura. And apparently it's like a 3% hit chance or something astronomically low. So I spent like the first 10 or 15 turns trying to level him up and missing every single time. And then I just gave up. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to kill this guy.
But you got Gilgamesh out of it, right?
Yeah, I got Gilgamesh, but I don't have any auras, which is kind of depressing. So I might have to
I don't think you can draw
go
those
on the world map and run in circles. And yeah, there's a hidden draw point on the island closest to Hell.
Well, once you beat Seifer, the battle ends. Seifer pops up, takes Rinoa, and he's leading her to Adele's tomb. And I don't remember the words that are said at the end, but essentially that's where the disc cuts to black.
Right. That's the end.
Yeah, it's like, let's go after her and save her.
So, end of the storyline stuff here. I mean, there's stuff we're clearly looking forward to in Disc 4, like hopefully finding out the Squall thing. But
Disc 4 is going to rock.
Did you guys all get the ultimate weapons for everybody?
Yes, sir.
I have one weapon that I've leveled up, and everyone else still has the level 1 weapons you get at the beginning of the game.
Wow.
For the first time, I actually went through.
Second best weapon.
I actually went through and got Lionheart. I usually don't make a point of getting those, but I did this time.
It was about a 2-hour ordeal for me, but I got them. I got them all.
Yeah,
the big thing is, well, I'm just thinking about you, Kevin, with the card playing or with the card, how big you are into cards. You have to refine Minotaur. Or not Minotaur. Is it Minotaur? I think it's Minotaur. You have to refine Minotaur into 10 adamantines.
Yes.
And that's really the kicker to get at least 2 of the weapons. I believe it's Zell's and Squall's best weapons. You have to get adamantine.
It is a pain.
And that doesn't bother me at all. I actually when I was doing the stuff on the lunar station or whatever it's called, I wasn't using my walkthrough for it. And I missed the fact that you get the Laguna card up there and you get another rare card. And so I missed that. So I'm like, well, whatever. I guess I'm not going to go collect all the cards this playthrough.
Well, I've stopped collecting cards because of the random rule. I can't stand it.
Ruined it for me.
I was initially I was going to give up on the hunting Marlboros, and like, I'll just go get some Marlboro cards. And then I went to play Adia, and I played like 4 rounds, lost every one of them, and never once did a Marlboro card show up for her. And she has an infinite stack of them.
Yeah, and that's why the Marlboros wasn't too bad for me, because I only had to steal 2 tentacles from them, because I just had so many leftover cards from when I was grinding.
So you said you just crested 35 hours, right?
38.
Okay, so you're roughly 40 hours into this game playing a low-level playthrough. Is that something that you are actually enjoying doing, or has it kind of just become a little bit of a drag?
No, I mean, the fact that you can get through the whole game without fighting a random encounter is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So it's just like when I was in Lunatic Pandora the first time, I was just running around exploring the whole thing, and that place is huge, and it only took me about 15 minutes because there was no fights to break anything up.
Yeah, I guess so. That is important. With the encounter non-ability.
I think it challenges how you actually play the game, too, because we get too comfortable with RPGs. Like, all right, let's grind, let's do this. Thinking back to how I played Final Fantasy VI, I just did the Narshi River, not glitch, but I just sat and went around the river and over and over and over and over, and then the rest of the game was super easy. It's just a different form of grinding, whereas this actually causes you to pay a little bit more attention to what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. And, like, it's cool, too, because it forces you, especially in the low-level playthrough, to take some of those like cards that you have, like the really rare cards, and break them down right away and use the items it gives you, because the items are really powerful.
Speaking of which, I will say this is the first time I've played through this game and actually paid attention to the abilities, where I can refine magic, high-level magic from lower-level magic, or you can refine, like, item plus.
Yep.
Because that's the only reason that I started paying attention to it, is because I had a Mega Phoenix, and that's what saved me down in the Deep Sea Research Centers. I thought I died to a Ruby Dragon again, and then this Mega Phoenix shows up just as I'm about to reset. I'm like, wait a minute, what the hell is this? How do I get these Mega Phoenixes? And then I started digging into how I get them, and I refined all of my Phoenix Downs to Mega Phoenix, so that if I died, they'd all pop back up. But all of my Guardian Forces have everything full, and you just go to Cactar Island, and...
Yeah.
It's 80 AP.
10, I mean, you should be able to kill 2 Cactars per battle.
Right.
And 40 AP per
At
battle,
least.
you can get everything full in a matter of 2-3 hours. Everything. It's crazy.
Yeah, I actually had to kill off... I tried to sub Squall out of the party because he was about... I think he's 18 experience away from leveling right now.
Ooh.
And I ended up having to kill him off because you can't sub him out of the party. So I'm like, well, shit. So I killed him off and just put all his junctions onto someone else and kept leveling
How
up
many
all the
experience do you
Guardian
get
Forces.
for, Cactar?
It's like 1 to 3 per
Okay.
person.
Wow.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's really low. So
This is
you don't
this
have
has
to
so far
go
been my
for
favorite
it.
disc. I mean, I know there's a lot.
yeah.
There was a lot of plot, but it opened up and like shit really started to make sense.
Well,
here.
if you're, a big RPG guy, I mean, Disc 3 is RPG. It's really free world roam. It's side quests. It's, oh yeah, you know what? I'm going to take 15 hours and do everything on the side, but for some reason I can go back and I didn't miss a wink.
Yeah.
In
If
the
I
main
wanted
story.
to spend another 20 hours on Disc 3, you easily could with the Chocobo Forest and the Wind Hill stuff. It's just, that stuff's not interesting.
Sorry, viewers who are really looking forward to us talking about that, but that just no way appeals to me at all.
That, I will admit, I'm pretty open with the fact that this is my favorite Final Fantasy, but the only caveat is that there are no Chocobos at all, unless you physically go and look for them. Whereas the other games have them built into the story. This game contains 0 Chocobos unless you make it an effort to include them in the game via the super shitty Chocobo side
I
quests.
feel like the developers of the game almost felt obligated to include Chocobos.
They got
somewhere
halfway
here.
they're like,
They're like, oh
the
shit.
Chocobos don't really fit into this
Where-
universe because we got cars and we got spaceships and like we have this giant turkey bird. Put them in the forest. Don't forget about it.
And even the item you get from doing all those Chocobo forests is trash at the end. Like, it takes you like an hour and a half, 2 hours to do the side quest, and the item you get is something you can refine from a card. It's like, well, thanks for nothing.
I don't. That's the one downside is that the Chocobos aren't very prominent in this game. But
Oh, I thought you had a new one.
no,
Oh, okay. Never mind.
no. So I think that's. I mean, we've covered Disc 3 pretty solidly here. I think we got a lot more out of it than I was anticipating.
I don't think there's anything we missed in this.
I don't think there was either. Good thing I took notes.
I didn't.
I think we made up more stuff than actually
We
happened.
inferred. We inferred.
No, let's be. I don't read into a whole lot of things. I think some of this stuff we discussed today had some real validity behind it.
Oh, yeah.
But it is again, you are reaching because the developers kind of leave you in cliffhangers,
Which
with
is
a lot of
good.
this
I
stuff,
like that.
You know?
But
They leave you
we
there.
are on a little bit of a time crunch here because Derek moves next Thursday.
I'm out.
So we have to do Disc 4 show
Moving closer to Kevin.
next Tuesday.
Man,
Is that
so-
okay, Kevin?
I think we can
Okay.
do it.
I think we can do it too.
Next Monday is actually a holiday up here in Canada land.
What holiday is
Is
it?
it May Long Weekend?
So I'll get done all the discs. Oh yeah, May long weekend, baby.
Such a stupid name.
May long?
No, it's just whenever there's a holiday in Canada that
I think
includes
it
a long
has, like, a
weekend,
legitimate
they just
name.
say
Hold on,
it's
let me see if
May
it's,
long weekend. So if they have a long weekend in March, they just call the holiday March long weekend.
March long weekend.
March. Long
It's
weekend.
Victoria Day is what it's called.
Victoria Day.
The
Oh,
Queen's
it's like
Day.
President's Day here, except we call it President's Day, not
Except
February long
We don't
weekend.
have totalitarian monarchies in our society.
We only have two. I think we have May long weekend and we have August long weekend that we call.
You guys need to
the
get some more
month.
holidays up there.
That's all right. Hey,
So-
we make up.
We got plenty.
Kevin, where can we find you on Twitter?
Derek, you can follow me at Dinner Dangles.
Dangles. Derek, have you decided to?
I haven't made an official one yet for this podcast, but like I was explaining to Eric here a while back, thinking this is a great experience, so might join the team here doing some podcasts, doing some retro gaming stuff. Final Fantasy is my caveat, obviously.
RPGs.
So JRPGs. So yeah.
So I think after we got one more week of this, I think we should do some serious soul searching and discuss what game we want to jump into next.
So hold on. Let me ask you guys this: should we? I mean, we've got the core factory sealed crew that is me and Jess and Dan and Kevin occasionally. But do we want to do this where we run a longer game over a course of a period of time?
I think we
like
should.
it. To me, I like doing this. I mean, we could dive into shit like Xenogears.
Xenogears would be a great one to
Oh
jump
man,
into.
we'll discuss that. But if that's something that you think we should do, let us know. I mean, there's nothing saying we can't run two styles of show within the same podcast. But we are going to finish up Disc 4 and the entire game next Tuesday. Then we're actually taking a 2-week planned break because I'm going on vacation. So we'll be back on the 1st of June.
Unless we compress time.
And past, present, and future. we got away from it.
Then you will be back.
We got away from it. Derek's going to set up a Twitter eventually. You can find me at Honest Pizza. If you want to write us in your thoughts, if we're full of hot air and bullshit for this episode, send us an email, factorysealed@manatank.com. Send us your thoughts for just the culmination of the game as a whole, because we'll be talking about those next week. Any last thoughts, guys?
Don't eat yellow snow.
No. I'm just I'm surprised at how good this game is. I didn't remember much about it because it's been so long since I've played it, but it is up there in the best.
To bring in one more conversation point, I think you guys might be able to relate to this as people who play RPGs a lot. You have your favorites, but you don't always play through them completely. I've started Final Fantasy VIII probably 30 times, and I usually get up to about Fisherman's Horizon, sometimes up to Ragnarok. And I don't always finish it because you look at it and you're like, man, that is a 70-hour investment. And then I usually pick these games up when there's a lull in the games coming out. But this game is...
Which is good for right now because there's a lull until like September.
Well, and... like you said, so many people don't give this game enough credit. And I hope that by listening to us talk about it, and you can see like all three of us genuinely enjoy the game. We're not trying to make a case for it that it's better than it really is. It's a great game. It's got a phenomenal story to it if you just take the time to enjoy it. And a lot of people bitch about the battle system, and it's more in depth than you think.
Yeah, and you just hit it on the head, Eric. You got to take the time with this game because I remember my first playthrough. I wasn't that impressed because it took me over halfway through the game to figure out the whole junctioning system, man, and the real intricacies of it. And now knowing that, going back into this game the second time playing through, I have had a blast.
Oh, this game's so
good.
I enjoy it even more. And usually going back to older games, you start to find things you don't like. I've actually found things that I like more, if that makes sense. I found more things that I like.
You bet.
So, anyway, that'll be a conversation we have, kind of wrap things up next week. So, we will see you all next week.
Have a good one.